Mom was in it. Pops participated. We had our regiment, but I always felt like I'm gonna be me, independent of this religion. Yeah, Jehovah's Witness was a chapter, but that was just a chapter. I don't care what religion you are. It's not about Jehovah's Witness to me. It's about who are you as a human? Who are you? The spirit really hit me. I was sitting on a balcony in Jamaica on a missionary trip with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I saw some energy coming off some of those people. I saw some real energy that was like beautiful energy, and they were not Christian.
I am super excited to bring you this interview. I'm going to talk to my brother, Salim Channel. I'm bringing him in just a second. But first, this is Amani Channel. This is Seeds of Awakening, your home for higher frequency conversations. If you like any sort of content that talks about maybe cultish ideas or more spiritual topics, this is your home. So, as I said, I'm going to bring Slim Channel in just a second, but one more order of business. You got to smash that like, hit that notification bell, or subscribe to the channel. Do one of those things, but if nothing else, just smash the like, pay it forward, please. Alright, so let's bring Slim Channel in. I spent many days with this cat until I was 21, lived with him in East Palo Alto, California. Then I moved to Gainesville, then I moved around and ended up in Tampa, Florida. Then he moved to Florida to Tampa with me and lived there for about 4 or 5 more years. Then he moved to California, got a job on TV, started his family. Then by this time I was in Atlanta and started my family. So that's where we are now. So now I'm talking to him about all things of our youth and our beliefs.
All right, what's going on, bruh?
What's up, Salim? How you doing?
Good, great.
So yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to talk to me. I know you've been kind of hesitant to talk about some of the old lifestyle changes that we made and the way we used to live, but take me back to maybe your first memories of your youth in East Palo Alto.
Of memories, first memories, youth in East Palo Alto. I remember getting chased by a German Shepherd, um, right there on the corner of Gloria Way, right there. I remember getting chased by a German Shepherd and like ran down right there on the corner by the dog. I think I fell and scraped my knee.
Was it in the wild field? Was it like a wild dog that had been released or a
No,
stray dog?
it was one of our neighbor's dogs that got out the fence, or we were walking in the neighborhood, and then the dog came out of the yard and onto
Hmm.
the sidewalk, and so I started running up the sidewalk, and then the dog gave chase, and then I fell down and scraped my knee or something. That's one of my first memories of East Palo Alto. Another memory would be the time we went and did a paper route with one of our neighbors. He had a paper route; he would throw papers, and we were helping him throw the papers. I think it was the Times Tribune. I think that's the name of the paper, Times Tribune. And I remember at the end of the route, he offered me $1 for helping him throw papers, and I was like, "Just $1?" And he's like, "Shit, you ain't getting nothing now." And I was like, "Wow, that was a big lesson right there. Should have just said thank you and taken $1." That was a major one for me. That was like, I'm never gonna forget this. Another memory, East Palo Alto. A lot of a lot of addiction and a lot of like old people or older people. I thought they were old, but adults who were like in a wounded state, like in a compromised state. A lot of corners being held by people who were just nodding off and just in outer space already. Um, Smoking cigarettes, cigarette smoke, the stench of cigarette smoke, people standing on the corner just smoking cigarettes. Me as a child looking around at adults was like, is this all they do?
Hmm.
um, Memories of East Palo Alto. Like very bright sunny days, like very bright sunny days though. Beautiful, like dirt roads, dirt roads, no sidewalk, dirt roads, safe to walk around, kind of wander around a little bit. I remember one time riding bikes with you actually, and like I didn't want to ride past a certain area, and you were like, "Come on, bud, like let's go down Glen Way." It was like down Glen into Midtown. I didn't want to go down certain streets, so I remember being really like scared and being like crying, like trying to catch up to you on the bike, like but wanting to go home, but then knowing if I went home I would be by myself, but being outside of my normal boundaries and being like real scared, like riding my don't leave me like that. Um, those are like young memories.
So I think that shortly after we moved to East Palo Alto is when Mom got exposed to Jehovah's Witnesses and that whole world kind of shifted. Do you remember life pre Jehovah's Witness?
Um, to me, like there was no difference between life pre Jehovah's Witness and like I don't. To me, I don't really associate my life with religion. Like even when I was a student of that faith, like I never based my identity on being one of anything. Like even though I was a student of and learning and exposed by virtue of the fact that the family, mom was in it, you know, pops participated. We had our regiment, but I always looked at the family as my basis, and then me personally as a person, my personality is my personality. So even though I was associated with the organization through access granted by my parents being associated with organization, I always felt like I'm gonna be me, independent of this religion. Because people, you know, like I learned early that people claim to be in something, but only be in it when they're there. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they're not at that location, they turn into different people and are not there. So I saw so many faces, how people put on masks and behave a certain way in certain places, and then go into the world and act different. So I was always like, oh, these are just people, though. You can claim to believe in Jehovah, Allah, Krishna, Buddha, Lucifer, Sam Hain, whoever, whatever. You can claim you could be a devil worshiper and still be like, oh God, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I see that religion doesn't mean anything to me. When I was younger, it didn't mean nothing to me. It was all about my relationship with myself and learning. That's so you know what I mean. Like, yeah, Jehovah's Witness was a chapter, but that was just a chapter in a big book. You know what I'm saying, called the Bible, and in studying to learn.
It's really
Does that
interesting
make-
that so it sounds like you weren't, I mean, were you a believer then? Did you believe in the doctrine that you were being fed?
I believe that there was a written record kept, and I was learning. I was reading stories. So, doctrine is that's interpretation. You know what I mean? That interpretation is interpretation. So there's a Bible, and people interpret the Bible the way they want to. But as humans with free will, individuals 9 out of 10 times operate in their own self-interest and will use literature, books, and stories as a rationale to do what they want to do. So it wasn't about whether I believe what they were talking about. Do I believe what I'm talking about? You
Mm-hmm.
know, religion is just a framework. But for me as a student, I believe the stories were written. I believe that I can take what I can from the lesson, and then I know I have decisions to make. Whereas in terms of what they believe, you might find people in any faith who claim to be it, but behave differently than what they say they believe. So you have a good question, but I don't have an answer because I don't speak for all people who profess to be anything. Former devil worshiper, former Luciferian, former Buddhist, former Islamist, former Jehovah's Witness, former Baha'i. There's so many faiths. You can't just, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about your religion. I don't care about anybody's religion because I'm a student. And so as a student, I will take the lesson, but now I have to apply it to my life and decide, is this good for me? For me, my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit. And if the answer is yes, I can learn something, then I'll apply that lesson. If no, keep that over there.
So with that in mind, I guess, what did you learn from maybe going out in field service, or from the strict rules they had, or from did you feel like there's hypocrisy within the organization, within the congregation?
No, see, the thing about the tone you're taking is that for people, because I know there are people who are watching this who are like devout Jehovah's Witnesses or questioning it or going through their own thing, and I'm not going to get into that apostate type that talk, because like even in the rules that apply, people don't follow the rules anyways. There's 10 commandments, right? Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, right? And so that, independent of whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, a Catholic, a Protestant, a devil worshiper, whatever, if you don't follow the rules of whatever your faith prescribes you to be, then you're not a true servant anyway. So I
Hmm.
don't care what the rules are, because people do what they want to do. People do what they want to do. So nah, there's some people who are in that faith, who are devout, only married within that faith, never commit adultery, never cheat, never steal, never lie, and then they die in car crashes. You know what I'm saying? So who am I to judge whether there's hypocrisy? Humans are hypocrisy. Humans are paradoxal. That's life. You're like, oh, this one time I did something I'm ashamed of, and now I'm no longer a pure servant. Who's pure in this world? Find me one person who never sinned. Find me one. If as soon as you commit one sin, now you've gone contrary to your faith, now you're a hypocrite. There's nobody perfect. So I wouldn't put that on the organization. I got to talk to that person and find out whether they're repeating the behaviors that are self-destructive, that go counter to the 10 commandments or counter to the rules and the prescriptions. And then we could have that discussion with that person. But otherwise, I can't say there's hypocrisy. I think people are full of it. A lot of people are full of it in every faith. So that's a slippery slope. I'm not an anti Jehovah's Witness. I'm anti um, deception, dishonest snake. That's where I'm at. I'm anti liars. I'm be true and be pure to what you're about. If what you really are is a manipulative, conniving, backstabbing, slanderous thief, then just say I'm a manipulative, conniving, slandering, backstabbing thief. Stand on that though. Don't be like, but Jesus died for my sins, so
So you currently do not go to the Kingdom Hall, though. You're not affiliated with Jehovah's Witness anymore. Were you
man, I
baptized?
do not affiliate with anybody or anything.
Hmm.
I don't affiliate with anything like related to organized religion. I am this is my body. I am the God of this body. That's my mind state. I have free will, I have intention, and I have power. And with that, I am the God of this body. I don't associate power outside of myself like, oh, if I do this, then I'm going to get that from God. God's not coming to save me. I'm not looking to an external God to save me on this planet. So no, I don't go to Kingdom Hall. I don't go into churches. I don't go into organized religion. That's To me, that's how you're setting yourself up to get preyed upon. That's how you get you know what I mean? That's how you get the fangs in your neck. Because now you're attaching power to an external source, and then you're getting leveraged on your sins, and then paying for righteousness. You're paying a dollar sign for your righteousness. Like, oh, I must confess that now I give you money, and this is better than blackmail. So at least Jesus died for my sins, so it's not so bad. I can keep on being a slanderous, conniving, backstabbing thief. But I go to church, or I go to the Kingdom Hall, or I whatever. Man, get out of here. You're not with the spirit. You know what I mean? You're with the buffoonery. That's what I would say. I don't care what religion you are. It's not about Jehovah's Witness to me. It's about, who are you as a human? Who are you? Are you a student of the spirit, or are you a student of fill in the blank? Be like, well, Christ died. Why would I want to follow Christ? He died, dude. He didn't do nothing wrong and he died. So why would I want to follow that? And then why would I want to use that as an excuse to do dirt and then be like, I'm okay? Nah, it's all that shit's confusing. So I just leave it alone. Like, you need to read some Satan literature or something. That might be better for you. You know what I mean? I think that might be better for people instead of looking to get to know God and then lying and then acting like they're righteous. Maybe they should just read some Satan literature. I think that might be better because you might actually get closer to the pure evil that you really are, and then at least be honest with it and be like, yes, I'm on earth and I'm gonna be a slanderous, backstabbing, conniving thief. And then be like, yeah, more power to you. At least you're being honest. I would rather that than somebody be like, oh, but Jesus, but Jesus. Nah, dude. I'm not with that, bro. I'm not with none of it.
So at what point did you start to get these different philosophies or this different attitude about life? At what point did you kind of go into this different perspective?
Um, I started getting into this when that's a good question.
Because
It
what
started
I remember I was home, I was reading the Rancher book, and I came home and you had the same book. That kind of like, to
right.
me, kind of signified that you were kind of more on a different path than we were raised.
So just like you, like I one of the family members gave me a book uh about the human aura.
Mm.
And I've always been someone who sees through eyes that like the eyes I see through, I see energy. Like I see people's energy, like independent of one of the benefits of having a sick mother and was that like no matter what color a person is, no matter what height, no matter what weight, no matter what race, no matter what faith, people carry energy. And no matter what god or what devil people subscribe to, they carry energy. And I've always had eyes that see energy before I see anything else. So even if what comes out of a person's mouth is saying something, but if their energy is different, I have the eyes that see through the illusion of words because I see energy patterns coming off people's bodies. So that's just my vision. So I've always had a vision, right? Now, in terms of what I do with my vision is learn. So I take in information which helps to enhance my sight, my spiritual vision. And so I've just become a discerning student of the spirit who is able to identify the frequency that I'm being offered or presented by people in the flesh. And that's a gift I've always had. Now, the temptation is to betray my gifts and pretend like people are who they present themselves to be through word. But if I sense that a person's words and actions are not aligned, my eyes and my spirit do not allow me to engage in any unmeaningful dialogue with that individual. So this is something I've always had. Um, so there's not one event that like flipped the switch, but reading the book about the human aura opened my eyes to the temple that I am.
And do you
That
remember
I
the
am.
age? Do you remember the age when you got your hands on the book?
Yeah, that book I got. It was like probably, man, this would have been the year. It was like in the 98, 99 era.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was shortly after I started writing in journals. Like when I started journaling, I started writing my everyday actions. Like, so yeah, that's okay. So to answer your question, the spirit really hit me. The really spirit really touched me when I was in Jamaica in 90, in 98, 97, 98, maybe. Yeah, like, yeah, I was like a couple years after I graduated high school and I was sitting on a balcony in Jamaica on a missionary trip with the Jehovah's Witnesses, where we were, going hut to hut, talking to people about God and the kingdom. And on that trip, I met some Jamaicans who were kind of Rasta, and I saw some energy coming off some of those people. I saw some real energy that was like beautiful energy, um, some real indigenous earth body energy from beautiful people, and they were not Christian. And I recognized the purity of the energy coming off of them, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I could feel it. And so once I felt that, I was like, I was writing in my journal. I picked up my first uh, diaries, my first journals. I started on that trip writing down. I was like, after I had encountered these people, I was like, dang, life is amazing. Like I I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget this. I don't want to forget this feeling. And the only way I could relay the feelings was in words, because I knew that I'd go back to the regular world and people would be lying like they always do. But there was a certain purity of the people in Jamaica and the way they communicated that touched me. Hella, it was like deep. It was like, ooh, like my spirit activated, like inside. And from there, I was like, I'm gonna be a student of this feeling, of this feeling. I'm gonna be a student of these feelings, and I'm gonna document the stimulation, what stimulates my ears and my mind and my eyes and my body. And like I'm gonna just everything that resonates with me, that I feel, that I enjoy, I'm gonna document these experiences, like so that I could be a better person, because I just want to be a better person. So that was like my awakening. Like I want to be a better person. I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be lying to other people, making myself seem like I'm something I'm not. I don't want to be a part of a group of people who are manipulating others or using belief systems to tamper with people's reality just to get what I want. I don't want to be a selfish person who doesn't have any care or concern for people I might affect. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to affect people positively. And if I can't, I'll be alone, and I will create and generate that feeling by myself. Like I will be by myself at the end of the day. So I'm gonna take these experiences and these senses, and I'm gonna use it to enhance my life and to learn what to learn, just to learn.
Hmm.
Um,
And you are like an avid learner, an avid reader. Where's your beliefs now?
my belief is that if you play with the spirit and your intentions are not pure, you will suffer. If you play with the spirit and your intentions are not pure, you will suffer. That's my belief. On the other hand, if you play with the spirit and your intentions are pure, you will prosper. Be careful, how you project your internal shadows on others, because any projection that's really a mirror of your shadows projected on someone else will boomerang back, and you will be the one cursed by the words out of your own mouth. That's what I believe. I believe that honesty, brutal honesty, is the fastest path to the heavens, and that denial is the devil, and that those who live in denial of their shadows are actually worshiping Satan. And Satan may not exist in the spirit realm, but he actually dwells within those who are in denial about their shadows. So, in fact, many people are actually worshiping the devil they claim they're fighting.
Mhm.
I believe that God dwells within each one human being, and we have a choice as to whether to magnify or orient ourselves towards a higher spirit, or be in denial of the higher spirit and live in the shadows. And that each person has the God and the devil within them, and that each person has to make a choice of what they wish to personify in their human flesh with free will. I believe that love is one of the most powerful magnetic forces on this planet, but if tampered with, if manipulated, it becomes exactly the demonic force that leads people to hurt others. And so love is not enough. The word love is not enough. It has to be an action. And it has to be a resonance. It's a service to be loved. To love and to be loved is a service. It's not taking. It's not a material thing. It's an intangible spiritual thing. So if you're playing with love, And the manifestation of love is material things. That may not be love. That might be materialism. That's the first commandment. Thou shalt worship the one true God, right? Thou shalt not worship any other. So if you love jewelry, or if you love cars, or if you love material things more than you love the spirit, you've already broken the first commandment. If you're going from the Christian, you're talking about the tribe and everything. If you're not talking about the tribe and you're like, hey, I'm with the devil and I want it, so I'm gonna get it, then be with the devil. I'm putting that in quotes because you can have whatever you want. You can have anything you want. You can manifest whatever you want in on this plane. But don't ask for what you want, then be crying to God when you start suffering. You know what I mean? Like as a result of getting what you want. Be careful what you ask for. That's another one. Be careful what you ask for in the spirit realm, in the faith realm. Be careful what you ask for. Because sometimes people think they want something, but once they get it,
They
you're like,
don't
oh,
want it.
they don't want. You don't really want it. You see
Mhm.
it because it looked good on somebody else. But if you had their struggles, you wouldn't even want what they have. You know.
Where do a lot of your philosophies come from? Do they come from meditation? Do they come from reading books? Where did a lot of your perspectives on life come from?
It came from watching people, man. People, man. Just watching people. Like I'm an original people watcher. Before I try to get close to somebody and you know have a conversation, I watch people, man. I watch how people move. So I just learn from people, like being around being around dope dealers who had a lot of money and a lot of cars and a lot of jewels and a lot of the enhancements that would make anybody else feel like, oh, I want to be a dope dealer. You know what I mean? I'm trying to have it too. Like just watching and be like, this looks good, but I want to see how this turns out. That's how I was. Like, yeah, this looks good now. Or the players, the dudes who had all the hoes, dudes who had all the chicks. Oh, they were just magnetic, like flies on shit. You know what I mean? Um, you'd be like, damn, but how is this gonna turn out though? How can you manage this? So I'm like, I don't have to do it. I call it vicarious living. I spend a lot of time watching. I live my life, but like I can't do everything that other people do. If I try to participate in my hands in everything that other people do, I'm a student. You know what I mean? And so as a student, like, how am I going to learn? Well, you got to either learn by doing it, or else you learn by observing those who do it. And people are so, those who are, I like honest people. Another thing, I love honest people. People who are honest. Yeah, I'm a player. You know what I mean? I'm a player. I asked a young man today, if he ever has so much sex that he wants to abstain from it. He said, nah, 7 days a week, 3 times a day, I could fuck forever. Ooh, different type of person. You know, for me, I have my limits. You know what I mean? I'll be like, ooh, I need a break. Everybody's different, but I can only learn from somebody who's living it and being honest. So I say, hey, I have a man question for you. And I ask the question, have you ever had so much sex you want to abstain? He was like, oh, hell nah, bro. What you talking about? Okay. Now I can't be that man. I can't, if I try to make myself that man, then I'm going to have whatever I'm going to have to now deal with my version of his life. But I don't want this person's life, but I want to learn though. So I can only ask questions. So I like to ask questions. And if I have no one to ask questions, I ask myself questions. And then I write in my journal. So everything that I've learned has come from a role of being mindful, emotionally intelligent, honest with myself, and documenting my progress every day. Like I imagine myself as my doctor taking notes on my life to be a better patient that I never want to be in the real world. I never want to go to the hospital and be like, oh, you know what I mean? I never want to be that dude on the corner nodding who can't control his own thoughts enough that he has to go for a psychological you know what I mean, when they be holding people in you need a weekend to just be in the hospital and you had a nervous breakdown and you'd be like you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be that dude. So I treat myself like I'm my own doctor,
Hmm.
and then just choose wisely, choose what's good for me though, but not based on what looks good out there. Because people, you know what I mean, there are temptations out there. This world's full of choices. So it's like I know, you know what I mean? If I go down this rabbit hole, I'm gonna have to come up out of it. So the question is, do I want to climb in that rabbit hole? So I think ahead, you know, because I'm writing everything down. I know I'm gonna write this down later, you know, because I'm honest with myself. So my thing is spirituality is like, dude, I'm just honest with myself. If you lie to yourself, lie to other people, and your whole life is manipulation, then you'll be like, man, turn this shit off. Don't shut that up. I can't watch that. And I'm there. They already just shut off the whole conversation we had. They quit when I was talking about the manipulative, backstabbing, conniving, slanderous. That they already flipped. They already went back to the Catholic Church. You know what I mean? They already went back. They confess. They're fucking their side bitch, and their wife is at home. You know what I mean? And they're like, whatever. I don't care. Christ died for my sins. I'm not. I don't rock like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not gonna do something to hurt somebody else. I'm gonna be held accountable by myself for the things I do, and I'm gonna write this down later. So, is it even worth it for me to talk to this motherfucker? Hell no, this conversation goes nowhere. I'm dealing with a conniving, backstabbing, slanderous thief. Exit stage left. I'm sexy all by myself, bro. I'm good. Like I don't I people are disgusting to me. Liars are disgusting to me. The other day the voice hit me like this. I have no enemies, but I am an enemy of the lie. The only enemy I have is the lie. And everybody has one. And I'm not your enemy. You're your enemy. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear it. If you can't be honest with yourself, if you can't be honest with your wife, if you can't be honest with your community, if you can't be honest with your coworkers, if you can't be honest with yourself, don't talk to me because I'm honest, all of the above, and then some on paper. So I don't waste my time, bro, with people, blood. Like, if you're not being honest with me, exit stage left.
What are some good memories that you have from our youth, or some lessons you learned from our youth that you've taken into your adulthood? I mean, I kind of feel like you look at things very critically, you're very introspective. What maybe do you see that were positives in the way they were raised that you've taken with you in your adult life?
Positive.
Hmm.
Um, let's see, man. Everything. I think what I'm talking about is positive. I mean, what haven't you been listening?
No, yeah, I'm
I'm
listening,
just
but
saying, like, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. No, sorry. Okay, so positive things is like, I mean, the thing is that I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
I mean, so when I think about how we're raised, right, I don't see like how we're raised as like a negative thing. Like, I don't look at pretty much anything about my life as being negative. So I'm just saying, like, what are the lessons you learned from your youth that you've taken to your adulthood? Has it sort of been just like a compounding or building? Is there anything you can like look back and say, yes, the family Bible studies or communication with our parents
So
or
yeah, okay.
communication?
So like, my grandmother was a physical education teacher. So one of the things I took from grandmother, who was a physical education teacher, was like, your body's gonna break down. But for me, especially having had a sick mother who had a terminal illness, I'm rebelling against all that. I'm rebelling. I'm rebelling against the breakdown. So for me, it's like I said, I look at people and I see through a lens where I see energy. So I see energy. Does this make sense? Some people may not what I'm saying. When I look at you, I see energy. I
Mhm.
don't see race. I don't see color. I don't see religion. I don't see socioeconomics. I don't care about your job title. I don't care about your prestige. I don't care about your car. I don't care about your house. I don't care about your bitch. I see energy. So for me, working to magnify and magnetize my body for longevity energetically by doing things in a routine or ritual that build up my temple because I am the temple. I am the temple. This is my possession. My spirit possesses this body. And so there's not one incident, it's just having influences in my family and in my life, my ancestors, my grandparents, who would be like, If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Catherine Fairfax. Okay, that was one. Okay, that's a major one. If you're talking about, like, to answer your question, um, grandmother having the um the foam mats in her backyard and doing rolls and flips and cartwheels and jump rope from a grandmother who was a physical education teacher. That was a big one. Having a grandfather whose beard smelled like cigarettes and whose mouth smelled like chili and ass because he smoked Camels, right? Um, and then being like, "Oh, I can't stand giving him kisses. Oh, his nasty beard and the fucking smell of the ass on his breath." That struck an impression. I see energy since I was young. That's all I see: senses and energy. So it's like, is this something I'm attracted to, or is this something that repels me? I'm like that. It's like either it attracts me and I'm like interested, or it repels me and I'm cool. Like, I get it. That's your body. That's your choice. But I want nothing to do with it. So I've always had that. That's how my eyes work. That's how my senses work. So there's a lot of little impressions. I could tell you, like, the little impressions people made on me that made me decide, like, I'm not gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. So, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So for me, then I have no space to be talking about somebody who's who's doing what's good for them, and it's not my business. Uh, cool. Thank you. That's where I'd be like, thank you for showing me that you're a conniving, backstabbing, manipulative, thieving, lying son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Thank you, though. I'm not judging you, but that's just who you are. If you're in denial about it, that's not my problem. I just see you because I see your energy. So for me, it's just people make impressions on me, and my subconscious retains those lessons. Like, my subconscious mind, like, says, "Oh, this is a new one. Oh, okay. Is this person influencing you? Do you think, is that cool? Could you do it?" If the answer is no, exit stage left. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of little impressions. It's not one thing. It's like a lot of little impressions from a lot of little people. I met a dope fiend once that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? I I can't remember what he told me, but anytime I see a dope fiend who has his energy, I just know. Like, I seen one this morning. He was like this, with the crap, with the glass pipe in his hand this morning, right in front of the police station, right around the corner. Seen a dope fiend this morning who was just like on planet Mars, looked like he was in heaven. I can't do that though. I can't do that. So, you know what I mean? I was impressed this morning. The dope fiend impressed me this morning. I was like, damn, same as when I was a child. It's the same thing. It's not going to change. But I have a choice. Did that make me want to go get a rock? A dope fiend right now, I'm like, hell yeah, bro, she's making me want to smoke some crack. I'm not built like that.
All right, so we're spending a few minutes talking to Salim Channel. Charlie Slim Channel is actually my physical blood brother. Hey, thanks a lot, Salim, for spending some time with us. So I want to ask you, where do you stand now spiritually or religiously, or like with your faith? I know you're Are you still practicing Buddhist? And talk a little bit about your transition to that faith or that practice.
All right, so Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is a Nichiren Buddhism from Japan. Um, Former President Ikeda came to the United States to spread Nichiren Buddhism, which is um, stems from the Lotus Sutra. Of course, Buddhism really began in India. However, it traveled to China, Japan, and the concept of Nichiren Buddhism is that, in essence, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo means I submit to the universal law of cause and effect. So I absolutely still am a student of life, and the Buddhist philosophy kind of aligns with the fact that, if the cause is to get drunk and if you poison yourself, the effect is intoxication. That's the fastest analogy I can make to the universe law, right? It's like, if the motive is to fill in the blank, and the action is taken, then the result will be fill in the blank. And that's just a philosophy. I see Buddhism more as a philosophy than I do an organized religion. I don't go to any of the Soka Gakkai. I don't participate in the events. I don't go to meetings, but I have a go home zone, and I I've invoked the law. I've invoked the law in my life. I've created causes, and I've suffered the effects and or experienced fortune. But it's just a reminder to me of the universe law, which is cause and effect. Um, but right now, like I've done, I mean, I've, man, my spirituality is it's all schools, man. I'm all schools. Like so, I mean, I've read books about almost every faith. Because for me, I'm not going to get locked in on one thing when there's a diver. I'm you meet millions of people. There are billions of people on this planet, and everybody believes in something. And so for me, it's like I want to be schooled on the vibration or the frequency of divinity, of divine existence. That's what I'm fascinated by. Humans who can capture divine existence manifest in the human body on this planet in this day. I know there are schools from ancient times, but we are in the modern world. And so I am reluctant to subscribe to anything that is framed in an archaic setting. Because although there is a commonality to life, we are living in a modern era where information travels faster than ever. And so I apply my spirit practice to my free will on this planet at this time, doing what's good for me, leading to healthy outcomes for both myself and anyone I'm in concert with. That's my faith. So you can say I'm a Buddhist, but I read a book about Satanism too, though. I read it cover to cover. What does that make me, right? See what I'm saying? It gets kind of complicated because by if you just read something and become what you read without researching other things, you can get into nuanced thinking or boxed in thinking. And I don't like being boxed in the spirit. In spirit realms, I don't like to be boxed into one thing. I want to be knowledgeable of the way others think based on literature, books, things, records that are kept. I write also. You know what I'm saying? I have a record of my own. I live by my Bible. I live by the book I'm writing. So my faith is built on my experience, not based on any third party's belief systems. Yes, I'm a student of Buddhism. Yes. I've read the Bible cover to cover. Yes. I've read books about Satanism. Yes. I've read I have a Krishna book. I've read Auric studies. I have books by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, like you mentioned in the past, on the seven masters, the ascended masters. I've done reading about Saint Germain. I invoke angels every day. I do rituals every day where I invoke or banish. You can invoke or you can banish, and you can call upon your ancestors and guardians. I pray in a certain way. I have a way of commanding the spirit, in my opinion. Now, don't you know? I caution anybody watching this to judge anything they're hearing because you might not have the capacity to. You might be scared, for real. If you're scared, don't do it because the only thing you're going to get is a magnification of your intention when you invoke. So if you're going to invoke the spirit, be careful about what your resonant frequency is because ultimately, only thing you're going to get is a magnification of what's already in you in the spirit realm. Another way of putting it, don't get drunk when you're angry. You know, it's like that. If you think about the spirit realm, think about it in terms of substances people use to alter their minds, right? Let's say you're not using any drugs, but you're going to read information about a spirit realm, and your body is a conduit of energy, and you're calling upon the unseen to guide you. If your resonant frequency is not love or anything other than um, receptivity to higher energies, you are subject to suffer effects that may not be very pleasant. And if you have hate or anger towards others and are using spiritual gifts or capabilities to project upon others, be careful. You may not want to get into that. You know what I mean? I've done the work. So I've done the work. So, you know what I mean? My spirituality is all schools because I'm a student.
How much of where you are now do you attribute to how you were raised or the faith of our youth?
None of it. None of it. Um, Man, I have a YHVH, Jehovah, right? I have I make sigils. You know what I mean? I make sigils, dude. I do it all, bro. I do it all. I practice. I'm a practicing spiritist. So, I call upon Elohim. I call upon Yahweh. I call upon Aloha Vadath. I call upon the higher and the lower realms. I'm rooted. I know my chakra systems. I know my crown, my third eye, my throat, my heart, my secret chamber of the heart, my solar plexus, my base of the spine, my seat of the soul. I know my roots. I know. I'm big on symbology. I'm big on divine geometry. I, I I'm big on anything that roots the mind and the body, the fire, the earth, the water, the wind, the steel, the elements, right? I mean, this none of this is gonna fall in line with Jehovah's Witness. I take all that off the table, man. Like you gotta take all that Jehovah's Witness off the table to talk to me about spirit because if Jehovah, as the universe works, and as you call upon or invoke the name of the divine creator, whatever name you call the creator, then any permeation is also going to be a mirror of the divine creator, of the great spirit. In Native American traditions, we call it the great spirit. Okay. In a Protestant fraction fractionalized cult of Christianity, we call it Jehovah. In the Middle East, they call it Allah. In You know what I mean? Like, and there have been many incarnations of great spirits on this planet. So I'm not stuck on what I was introduced to as a child. If you were introduced to pacifiers as a child, then and you just still suck on pacifiers, then you might still be a child though. But I'm not stuck on what I was introduced to first. I've matured, and spiritual maturity is not being stuck on the first pacifier that got stuck in your mouth. If you don't learn how to cook for yourself, you might still be a spiritual child. You know what I mean? So, all respect to Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, Protestants, Methodists, Baptists, people who believe Jesus was white, uh, and all the other fictions and fairy tales that are out there. You gotta, you have to do the research and look in the mirror and say, I am, and then fill in the blank, and then invoke that and see what you get back. Try that like for 30 days straight. Just say, I am, fill in the blank, encode that, wave your fingers around a few times, touch your forehead or something, snap your fingers twice, wiggle your culo, and you might feel some magic happen. But I'm trying to make fun of I'm kind of making fun of myself right now because that these are the kind of things I do. These are the type of things I do. I know how to invoke, though. I have a direct connection to source. I do not seek source outside of myself. I don't go through any mediators or mediaries or intermediates to get to my direct connection to source. I don't pray to God through Christ. I don't do none of that. I go directly to source. I go directly to source. I have a connection with source. I believe that's what Jesus was talking about. So I don't have to go through Jesus' sacrifice and his blood sacrifice to get to God. I do not believe in that. I do not believe in that. That is basically glorifying murder. It's using death to get to life. You're already dead spiritually if you have to go through a dead prophet to access source. My belief system. not not conventional.
Mhm.
Vampires. This is the cross. Vampires. This is the cross. Shut this blog down. You know what I mean? Get off the internet. You got to get to source. If you're going through a blood sacrifice to get to source, you might be a Luciferian. You might be a devil worshiper in disguise in the Christian church. You might be. You just haven't researched the roots enough to know that you're really a pagan. You're bloodthirsty. You're lustful. You're not aligned with spirit, but you're in the religion though. And that's okay. I respect it. Just exit stage left. Stay away from me, please. I have nothing to say to you. We don't worship the same God. You know what I mean? You say, oh my God, and I'm like, who's your God though? That's how I am. When people be like, oh my God, I'm like thinking like, who are you calling upon? I don't do that. That's one of the 10 commandments. Do not speak the Lord's name in vain. People don't even realize how far they are off the path with the little things they do every day. And they wonder why their prayers don't get answered. My prayers get answered. I get direct feedback from the spirit realm. Direct. Like it doesn't take, if I ask for it, it's like,
That just means you're tapped in.
it's a blessing, but you got to use it right though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to use it right. I don't know what you do. I don't know what they do out there, but I know what I do, and I know
Right.
what works. So I wish everyone well on their spiritual journey or their path in religion. Do the work though. You got to do the work. You just can't call upon a dead prophet and think you're going to get blessed, especially if you're living counter to what you profess to be. What you're going to get is you're calling curses upon yourself because the spirit works in a very mysterious way. It does.
Mhm.
You'll be praying for this and you'll get that. You know what I mean? Because what you're really doing is that. So when you ask for this, it's going to give you a reflection of what you're really doing, not what you're asking to do. You got to change your will. One has to change one's actions and one's will to change one's life. And ain't no outside energy to do that. You got to make that decision in your heart.
So this points to the most common question that I like to ask all my guests. I want to thank you so much for your time and this heart-to-heart conversation that we've been able to have. How would you explain, or what's your definition of a spiritual awakening?
Spiritual awakening is when one individual stops lying to themselves, number one, stops lying to other people, and begins to, with honor and grace, accept with gratitude every lesson that is being presented in the three-dimensional world while connecting to the fifth and the sixth.
That might have gone over some folks' heads. All right, the
You
next
gotta do some
question.
research. Just do some research.
Next question. What's
Yeah.
the most important or valuable lesson that you've learned in life so far?
Um, I've learned one of the most important lessons I've learned in life is that the only person who can control you is you. And that any ways of thinking that relinquish one's personal agency and sovereignty over one's own free will is a form of servitude or slavery that, if misused, will lead to destruction if you're not following pure teachers. There's nothing wrong with following. There's nothing wrong with following. But anytime we seek divinity outside of ourselves, we render ourselves up to the influence of others who may pervert the purity of the spirit.
I hope people are taking notes. Our last question is, what would be your advice to someone who's maybe going through a spiritual awakening, or they're starting to have questions about how they were believing or anything like that? What would be your advice to someone?
Okay, so anybody who's having questions about their spirituality has to first of all acknowledge what caused them to question it. So it would be like if somebody's questioning their spirituality because somebody that they met in their organization behaved in a way that was counter to the beliefs, then they'd have to hold that person accountable and forgive that person for their error, number one. And then they'd have to remove the subconscious hook of associating that religion or that practice with that person, because that person was ultimately an agent standing alone and just created an emotional hook in that person's subconscious mind. And so a person who's starting to liberate themselves from confined, boxed in religion is going to go through a very confusing, dark period of frustrating, crisis, anxiety driven, repetitive loop thinking that can feel like insanity because they're still attached to that hook that may have been the original falling from grace in reference to faith and the belief in organized religion. So you got to remove those hooks and then realize that your relationship with spirit has nothing to do with the perverted version you were offered. Because anybody who's questioning must have gone through something that was counter to the written text, unless you're a Satanist, because they be like, hey, bro, but we God out here. That's how, you know what I mean? I've read the books, you know what I mean? Choose as you will. You got to determine what's right for you and what's wrong for you, because I don't have that answer, but you got to first remove the hooks. I would recommend doing a cord cutting ritual. A cord cutting ritual. It's a banishment ritual. You could do a banishing spell. You could cast a banishing spell. If you have like repetitive, anxious driven thoughts that are based on the feeling of isolation or abandonment from being disillusioned from your so-called religion, you got to do a cord cutting ritual. Cut them cords. You know what I mean? It means you call into your subconscious mind the faces, the places, and the things that bothered or traumatized you. You can do some self-hypnosis also. That's doing eye exercises. But if you're just doing a pure cord cutting ritual, you will call into your subconscious the things that disrupted your peace, a clear picture of that person, elevate them to the status that you had before you were crushed by them. Like bring them back to God. You bring it back to God, right? You bring them back to like, oh, I thought you were this, but you were really that. And then the disappointment that comes, but put them back in that high place and then cut it off. Then just imagine just whatever type of, I would say you would use like I tend to use like a blade in my mind. Like I elevate them to the place where they had control over my perception of authority, and then I cut it, and then I just imagine the connection dissolving in my subconscious mind, and then I'll do a banishing ritual right after that, and then I'll invoke 12 virtues on top of that, and then I'll imagine like a shape of some type, and then I'll do another 12 virtue, and then I'll do another banishing ritual, and then I'll throw up and I just lock it out, and then I go to sleep, and the next day I wake up, and it'll come back, but it's not as strong. It gets weaker every time. You just banish it until it gets so weak that it's like a figment of your imagination, man. It's just like a figment of your imagination. It happened though, but it ain't never gonna happen again. Like, that's a little bit of magic for y'all.
Salim, I want to thank you so much for spending a few minutes for talking to me and sharing your beliefs and your experiences with the audience. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.